The number appears on your screen at 11:47 on a Tuesday night. You are sitting on a bunk in a barracks that smells like floor wax and recycled air. Your boots are still on. Your phone is balanced on your chest. You weren't looking for anything specific. You were just scrolling. The listing reads, security contractor. Hostile environment experience required. $800 per day. You do the math without thinking about it. 800 times 30. 24,000 a month. 288,000 a year. You do it twice because the first answer doesn't feel real. Your current salary is $52,000. You've been in uniform for 6 years. 2 deployments. One to a place your family could find on a map. One to a place they couldn't and still can't. You've been shot at in both. You've carried men who were hit. You've written letters home that started with "I regret to inform you" and stopped because that wasn't your job, and you were grateful it wasn't your job, and you felt sick for being grateful. 6 years, $52,000. The man 3 bunks down makes the same salary. He has never left the country. He processes paperwork in an air-conditioned building 8 hours a day and goes home to his family every single night. You do not resent him. You understand the math too well to resent him. You click the listing. Minimum 5 years of direct combat experience. Must hold current security clearance. Medical certification preferred. Previous deployment experience in a high-threat environments required. This is a job description that describes you so precisely it feels personal. You've never heard of the company. The name means nothing. The website is clean and corporate and tells you almost nothing useful, which itself tells you something. There is a logo. There is a contact form. There is a line that reads, "We operate in environments where conventional security solutions are insufficient." You read that line 3 times. Insufficient. That word is doing a lot of work. You know what that word means in practice? It means the places where governments send people like you and then pretend they didn't. It means the contracts that don't show up in official records. It means the work that gets done between what a country is willing to admit publicly and what it actually needs to have done quietly. You've been inside those gaps. You've operated in them. You just didn't get paid like it. Your phone screen dims. You tap it back awake. There's a button at the bottom of the listing. Apply now. You hover over it. You don't press it yet. You're not the kind of person who makes decisions at 11:47 on a Tuesday night based on a number, but you're not closing the page either. Here's what you don't know yet. You don't know about the 7 months standing at a gate in 120-degree heat before anyone gives you real work. You don't know about the morning a rifle round passes close enough to move the air beside your ear, and what your hands do afterward and what they don't do. You don't know about the conference room where attorneys discuss the monetary value of a dead father and a wounded child with the same tone they use to discuss quarterly projections. You don't know any of that yet. You just know the number. This is the private military industry, a $60 billion machine built on a single durable truth. Governments will always need violence done, and sometimes they need someone else's name on the paperwork. This is your life inside that machine. At every level, you press apply on a Wednesday morning, sober, daylight, same answer. The application takes 40 minutes. It asks for your DD-214, your deployment history, your weapons qualifications, your medical certifications, your security clearance level, and a list of every country you've set foot in while carrying a weapon. You fill it out like a tax form, clean, methodical, no embellishment needed because the facts are already enough. Then it asks about psychological treatment history. You pause on that one, not for long, 3 seconds, maybe 4. You type no and move to the next field. You saw a counselor twice after your second deployment. Bad dreams, a temper that ran hotter than it used to, nothing that required medication, nothing that required follow-up. 2 sessions in a beige office where a woman with a lanyard asked you to describe your sleep patterns and you described them accurately and left feeling exactly the same as when you arrived. You type no and you don't think about it again. A recruiter calls 11 days later. He introduces himself by first name only. His voice has the specific texture of someone who used to be in the military and learned to sand the edges off. Friendly, measured, rehearsed in a way that sounds almost natural. He asks about your deployments. You tell him. He asks about direct contact. You tell him. He asks whether you've ever been responsible for decisions that resulted in casualties. You tell him yes. He doesn't flinch. He writes something down. You can hear the pen. He tells you about the assessment course. 2 weeks. A private facility in North Carolina. Room and board covered. 32 candidates. Pass rate historically around 70%. He says historically like he's discussing weather patterns. Pass and you get a contract. Fail and you get a bus ticket home. And a handshake that means nothing. You book a one-way ticket to Raleigh. The facility is not what you expected. The barracks are clean. The equipment is new. The shooting range complex makes every military range you've ever used look like a dirt road with targets stapled to a fence. 32 candidates. Every single one has seen combat. Nobody here is learning anything for the first time. The only question is who's good enough. 23 of 32 pass. You are one of them. But the man who isn't will keep you up that night more than you expect. You don't examine that feeling. There's no time. The ink on your contract is barely dry when they hand you a plane ticket. You imagined a convoys, you imagined extraction missions, you imagined the kind of work the recruiter described in careful, measured language that made everything sound purposeful and kinetic and worth the pay grade. Instead, you are standing at a gate. Your first assignment is static security at a logistics compound in a country where the sun is not a weather condition. It is a presence. It pushes down on your shoulders through your plate carrier from the moment you step outside until the moment you step back in. You work 12-hour shifts. Temperatures regularly exceed 120 degrees. You check identification badges. You search vehicles with mirrors and dogs. You watch grainy black and white footage on a security monitor that flickers in the bottom left corner every 40 seconds. You are a security guard, an expensive one carrying an expensive rifle, with an expensive sunburn developing across the back of your neck. The pay is $500 per day, more than double your military salary. You feel cheated anyway. The PSD teams rotate through your gate twice a week. They drive armored Land Cruisers with tinted glass. Their plate carriers are custom fitted. Their optics cost more than your monthly rent back home. They move through your checkpoint without making eye contact, not out of hostility, out of something worse, indifference. To them, you are furniture. A warm body assigned to a post. Your company bills the client $62 an hour for your presence at this gate. You see $500 a day of that. The rest disappears into overhead, insurance, logistics, and a profit margin that nobody explains and you're not meant to ask about. You sleep in a converted shipping container. The air conditioning unit works 70% of the time. The other 30% you lie on top of your cot and stare at the ceiling and think about nothing. Because thinking about something requires energy you don't have. There is no brotherhood here. These men are your co-workers. The distinction becomes clear the first time someone gets hurt on site, and the only person who visits him in the medical tent is the site manager, who arrives with a workers' compensation waiver before the medevac helicopter does. You spend 7 months at that gate. You don't complain, but you watch. You learn every name, every team leader, every detail commander who passes through. You buy drinks at the compound bar. You hand your resume to anyone whose title includes the word manager. One Monday morning, a man named Kruger stops at your gate and asks you a question. You answer yes before he finishes asking it. Kruger has a scar that runs from his left ear to his jawline. He doesn't explain it. You don't ask. He runs his team like a man who has already seen every way things can go wrong and has made his peace with most of them. Briefings start at 3:30 in the morning. Route analysis, satellite imagery, intelligence updates sourced from local contacts he spent 4 years and 3 contracts building relationships with. Contingency plans for every bridge, every choke point, every intersection between point A and point B that could become a problem. You memorize alternate routes. You memorize the GPS coordinates of the 2 nearest hospitals. You memorize the radio frequency for the closest military quick reaction force. And then Kruger tells you to forget that last one. If things go sideways out here, he says, you fix it yourself. Nobody is coming. That is the difference. In the military, you had air support, artillery, a battalion headquarters tracking your position on a digital map. Here you have Kruger, 5 other contractors, 2 armored trucks, and whatever ammunition you packed this morning. That is the complete list. Your pay jumps to $900 per day. Your life expectancy statistically does not jump with it. You drive the lead vehicle. That is not a coincidence. The lead vehicle is the one that hits the IED first if there's one buried under the road. The lead vehicle absorbs the ambush first if there's one waiting around the next bend. You are the canary, Kevlar wrapped, driving 60 60 miles an hour on a road that was never meant for 40. The first time things go wrong is a Tuesday afternoon. A truck sits across the road ahead. Engine running, no driver visible. It could be a breakdown. It could be the first move of something much worse. Kruger's voice comes across the radio. Flat. Calm. Almost bored. Don't stop. Go around. You go around. 100 meters past the truck, a rifle round cracks through the air close enough to your ear that you feel the pressure before you hear the sound. You push the accelerator to the floor, 90 miles an hour on a road built for 40. Dust kills the windshield. The radio erupts. 11 seconds. Then silence. Nobody is hit. At the compound, the client climbs out of the second vehicle. His hands are shaking so badly he can't hold his water bottle. Yours are completely still. He will never learn your last name. You already know that. It stopped bothering you faster than it should have. Kruger rotates home on a Thursday. He texts you 2 words. Good luck. Nothing else. Because Kruger does not waste words, and because everything worth saying between the two of you was already said on roads that don't appear on civilian maps. Before he left, he put your name in front of the regional director. You find out about this secondhand, which is exactly how Kruger would have wanted it. You are now the team leader, 8 operators under your direct command. The client portfolio has expanded. 3 principals moving simultaneously across a region the size of a small European country. You plan every movement. You approve every route. You select personnel for each detail based on a calculus that took you years to develop and that no training course ever taught you directly. Some operators stay calm under fire. Some operators shoot accurately under fire. Very few do both at the same time. You need the precise combination for every mission profile, and you are now the person responsible for knowing which man is which. Your compensation climbs to $1,500 per day. You carry a satellite phone and a laptop loaded with mapping software, your company's technical division built specifically for field operations. You coordinate with local military commanders who tolerate your presence because your company deposits access fees directly into their personal accounts. Nobody calls these bribes. Nobody calls them anything at all. You also coordinate with the client's corporate security director. He works from an office in London. He has never heard a gunshot outside of a clay pigeon range. He questions your operational decisions on a weekly conference call with the specific confidence of a man who has never had to live inside those decisions. Why the northern route instead of southern? Why the additional vehicle? Why is the monthly budget running 14% above projection? You explain, patiently, with the tone that costs you something each time you use it, because the contract renewal runs through this man's satisfaction, and the contract renewal is the only thing standing between your operators and unemployment. You disconnect the call, you return to the work. 3 days later, one of your operators takes a round through the shoulder on a route you approved. He survives. He's on a medevac inside 20 minutes because you memorized the coordinates of that hospital 18 months ago when you were still driving lead for Kruger. The London office sends an email asking for an incident report by end of week. You write it. Every word costs something. Your knees give you the forecast every morning before you check the weather. You are 39 years old, 15 years of plate carriers and weapon systems and ambient temperatures that could hospitalize a healthy man just by existing. Your body has started making decisions your mind hasn't approved yet. The right knee swells after long drives. The left shoulder loses range of motion in cold rooms. You sleep 6 hours on a good night and wake up already calculating threat vectors for routes you are no longer running. The company offers you a project management role you accept, not because you want it, because your body has already accepted it on your behalf. You trade your plate carrier for a collared shirt. The shirt feels wrong for approximately 4 months. Then it just feels like a shirt. Your office is in a capital city, a nicer district than anywhere you've operated in the past decade. You manage multiple teams across the entire operation theater, hiring, terminating operators who fail standards, logistics chains for armored vehicles, ammunition, medical supplies, aviation assets, client relationship management, contract compliance reviews, incident report analysis conducted with the same clinical detachment an insurance adjuster brings to a parking lot fender bender. Your salary is $350,000 per year. Performance bonuses tied directly to contract renewals. Client renews. You receive a check for $50,000. Client does not renew because one of your teams made a catastrophic error in judgment. You receive a meeting with the regional director that ends with your resignation being suggested in language that is polite and unmistakable simultaneously. You You sit in your air-conditioned office and review spreadsheets and feel something you weren't expecting. You miss the convoys, not the danger specifically, not the incoming fire or the 11-second ambushes or the mornings when you weren't certain you'd see the afternoon. You miss the clarity, the specific, irreducible focus that comes from knowing the only thing that matters right now is the next 500 meters of road. Everything else ceases to exist. Your divorce, your father's illness, the performance bonus, the contract renewal, none of it exists inside those 500 meters. The spreadsheets don't provide that. Nothing in an office ever does. You understand this now. You understand it the way you understand the shoulder and the knee. As a fact about your body that arrived without asking permission, there's a regional director position opening in 6 months. You are already being considered. You did not ask to be considered. You oversee every operation your company conducts inside an entire nation, 12 teams, 140 operators, 3 separate contracts worth a combined $94 million annually. You meet with the American ambassador on a monthly basis in a room where everything said is understood to be off the record and nothing said is actually off the record. You brief defense attaches weekly over coffee in a secure conference room inside the embassy. The coffee is always good. The conversations are always careful. Your compensation is $500,000 per year. You live in a secured compound with a swimming pool and a personal chef and perimeter guards who work for your own company. The irony of that last detail visits you occasionally. You are being protected by the same category of man you used to be. They stand outside your door the way you once stood outside someone else's. You don't examine that too closely either. Then the incident happens. One of your teams engages a vehicle at a traffic circle in the capital. The vehicle failed to stop when ordered. Your operators open fire. 17 rounds. The driver dies instantly. The passenger, a 14-year-old boy, is critically wounded. The vehicle contains no weapons, no explosives, no hostile intent of any measurable kind. A father was driving his son to a clinic because the boy had a fever. The dashboard camera footage is online within 6 hours. The host government issues a statement demanding accountability. Your company's share price drops 4% before the New York markets close. The legal team flies in from Virginia on a chartered jet. The public relations team produces a statement containing the words regrettable and thorough internal review and deepest sympathy arranged in an order that minimizes exposure. You sit in a conference room for 9 hours. You listen to attorneys discuss the monetary settlement value of a dead father. You listen to them discuss the projected long-term medical costs associated with a 14-year-old boy who will not fully recover. Liability thresholds are debated. Figures are proposed. Figures are revised. The conversation is efficient and precise, and conducted in the same register people use to discuss property insurance. You think about the father's hands on the steering wheel, whether he saw your operators before the first round, whether he had time to understand what was happening to him. The attorneys are still talking. You are no longer listening. Something shifts in that room, quietly, without announcement, the way structural damage works before anyone sees the crack. The building looks like every other building on the street. Glass facade, business park in Northern Virginia, accounting firms on one side, software consultancy on the other. The lobby has a company logo and a reception desk, staffed by a woman who answers phones and schedules meetings and does not know in any specific sense what the company actually does. She has worked here for 3 years. You have never corrected her understanding. Upstairs, behind keycard access, there are maps of every active conflict zone on Earth pinned to conference room walls. 14 countries, 3 continents, 3,000 operators deployed simultaneously at any given moment. You oversee all of it. Your company holds active contracts with the Department of Defense, the Department of State, the Central Intelligence Agency, the United Nations, 4 foreign governments, and 11 multinational corporations operating in resource extraction and infrastructure development. Annual revenue is $1.2 billion. You say that number in meetings without pausing on it anymore. That took longer than you expected. You sit in weekly executive meetings where organized violence is discussed in the vocabulary of quarterly earnings reports. Deployment tempo becomes a staffing metric. Hostile engagements become risk events. Dead operators become attrition statistics. Dead civilians become liability exposure. You use this language yourself now, fluently, without hesitation. You attend closed session congressional hearings where senators in expensive suits ask pointed questions about contractor oversight and accountability. You provide responses that are technically accurate and strategically incomplete. The senators accept your answers because the alternative is acknowledging publicly that the United States government has outsourced a meaningful percentage of its warfighting capacity to private corporations, and that unwinding this dependency would cost more politically than maintaining it. Everyone in that room understands this. Nobody says it. Your compensation is $800,000 per year plus equity. You own 1.5% of an organization whose market valuation rises when a new conflict begins and declines when a ceasefire is signed. Read that sentence again. You have a direct financial incentive for the world to remain dangerous. You don't examine this fact during business hours. You think instead about talent pipelines and contract renewals and competitive positioning in emerging markets. But the arithmetic exists whether you look at it or not. It sits in the corner of every meeting, patient, unmoving. The crack from that conference room in the Capitol is wider now. You can feel it when the building is empty and the cleaning crew has gone home and the maps on the walls are the only things left watching you. You built this from a metal barn on 200 acres in the rural American South. Tier 1 Special Operations. The specific unit is still classified. Everyone in this industry already knows anyway. You saw what the Pentagon missed after the Cold War ended, and the peace dividend checks cleared, and Western militaries shrank to a fraction of what they'd been. The world didn't get safer. It got more complicated. Failed states, resource conflicts, transnational terrorism, corporate expansion into regions where law enforcement didn't exist and governments couldn't or wouldn't follow. Somebody was gonna fill that vacuum. You decided that somebody would be you. 12 former operators, 1 contract protecting commercial shipping in Southeast Asian waters, now 6,000 employees across 31 countries, an aviation wing, training facilities on 3 continents, a Washington lobbying operation that spends $4 million annually maintaining relationships with the committee chairs and procurement officials who award the federal contracts generating 60% of your revenue. Your personal net worth is $110 million. Half the profiles written about you call you a patriot. The other half call you a war profiteer. Both contain enough truth to sting, which means both are missing something, which means the accurate description doesn't have a name yet. On your desk, there is a file. 231 names. People who died while employed by a company bearing your signature on the Articles of Incorporation. You read the list sometimes. Late at night, building empty, cleaning crew gone. You tell yourself they understood the risks. They signed the contracts voluntarily. They accepted the terms with open eyes. This is true. The truth does not shorten the list. It does not slow the rate at which new names are added. It does not change what the patch on their shoulder meant to them versus what it means on your boardroom wall. Somewhere tonight, a young soldier is lying on a bunk at Fort Liberty or Camp Pendleton, boots still on, phone balanced on his chest. He wasn't looking for anything specific. He was just scrolling. The listing reads $800 per day, and his eyes do the math automatically and widen at the answer. He doesn't know about the gate, the 11th second ambush, the conference room, the file with 231 names on the desk. He will never sit behind. He just sees the number. He clicks apply, and somewhere in a clean corporate office that looks like every other office on the street, a recruiter's phone is already ringing.